Lori Giles is a certified life transition coach, author, and an attorney. Her forte is women in transition, which means everything from divorce to death in the family. Why does forte women in transition and how to rebound? How did you come to get this as your niche? Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Sure.
That's how my practice just kind of came out. It seems like women, particularly, we're always trying to juggle it, and when the stray ball hits, it's a question of how do you keep all the balls in the air without letting everything else fall apart. So that's how I started doing it. I realized that my clients needed more than just legal help. They needed a way to figure out a plan to get from point A to point B. So that's how I got into it.
And the adversity can mean divorce, it can mean death. What kind of things are you seeing out there women facing?
Lots of things with the sandwich generation. Empty nest, divorce, loss of employment, foreclosure, aging and ill parents is always very difficult. Anything that happens that we're not sure how to handle.
Let's talk about divorce. A lot of folks go into that. I can feel that too. So talk about the biggest mistake women make post-divorce.
Post-divorce, they don't follow through. They'll get all of these things in place, retirement accounts, insurance, whatever, and they don't follow through.
So follow through on what? Follow through on?
Actually having things put in place in their name, changing their wills,
all the paperwork.
Getting all the paperwork done. They just kind of, like, the divorce ends as soon as they leave the courthouse, and that's definitely not the case.
Why is that so important?
Because otherwise, things are just left hanging. I've seen many times where the former spouse will pass away, and the wife has not put those things in place, and so she loses everything. So it's important to make sure that you have all your financial issues and all your legal issues up to date.
All the I's dotted, T's crossed.
Exactly.
Thinking with the heart and not the head. Now, what does that mean? I'm looking at your bullet points.
You know, so often, and I think it's more common with women, unfortunately, we think emotionally. And instead of making a hard and fast business decision when it has to do with our personal life, we use things like, well, I feel like I could still love him. Well, I feel this, I feel that.
Well, give me an example. You have an example there?
A great example of that would be the question of whether or not Elizabeth Edwards, for example, would stay or leave John Edwards. Now, thinking with her head, she knows that that was the absolute positive wrong thing to do. Where would it get her, other than having a major financial and legal issues? But emotionally, there's always that question, well, can we work it out? Can I do it? Even if you know that it's not the right thing.
So what would you have advised her? There's actually a good case there. What do you advise? And Elizabeth Edwards, whose husband was cheating, she's dying of cancer, he's cheating on her. He's worth $1 billion. What do you advise there?
Really tough case, and I think I would advise her the same way I advise all my clients. Step back, figure out where you are, figure out where you want to be, figure out your wants and needs, and develop a solid plan of approach. Don't just jump into the process. So many people, as soon as they decide they're getting a divorce, will pick up the phone and call the lawyer. Bad mistake, because you don't know what you want, what you need, or what your rights are.
How about the whole Tiger Woods issue? We're thinking about the Edwards, Tiger, and Elin. What was your take on all that? That was evolving.
I think that...
What would you tell Elin?
Same thing. Step back, make a plan, and figure out how to keep things going. And it appears that she did. I think that's a much easier case than the Edwards case, because
all that money's there?
Despite the money is easily divided. A 3-year-old can divide $1 million minus $1 million.
$1 billion.
But, exactly. But when it comes to the emotions, and someone like the Edwards, she had years and years and years invested. So not that Elin isn't going through. I mean, she's really obviously going through. But the money issues are so much easier than the legal and the financial issues.
Now you had also the third point is too many people in your ear, getting advice from everybody. Why is that? Shouldn't you be getting sort of a kitchen cabinet and weighing the advice and making a decision? What's wrong with all that advice?
I've had so many clients come to me and say, well, my friend down the street, her divorce went completely differently. Well, of course it did. You're different people. Divorce is not one size fits all. Nothing in life is one size fits all. And those facts and what happened there may not fit you. So you need to figure out really where you are and not take everyone's advice. And everyone is more than willing to give advice when you're going through a tough situation. Step back, cut the advice. Take only what you need. Use friends for support, not for financial or legal or medical advice.
And it's going to apply to men as well, right? We're focusing on women here.
But it absolutely
all right, so now we talked about what women shouldn't do in transition. Now what should they definitely do? Look at those points. You talked about deal with the emotional aspect. Work with a life coach, a therapist. Like, why are they getting so popular these days, these therapists and life coaches?
Because people can't figure out how to get through. And that's the job of a therapist, and that's the job of a life coach.
Accountability? The same thing.
Accountability, and say, okay, by this time next week, you will have gotten all your financial records together.
Right.
By this time, 3 weeks from now, you will have done whatever it is, gotten your kids involved in something. So it makes sense to have someone. You would not go into a football game and get on the field without a coach. Why would you go into a major life decision without some help?
Are most folks procrastinators who you deal with?
Absolutely they are. And it's fear. It's very much fear-driven. It's embarrassment in many cases, and it's sadness. If you're dealing with an aging or ill parent, you don't want to necessarily see that they're suffering from dementia or they're not getting around. It's a tough thing. Relationships evolve over time, but it's very hard to watch a relationship lose.
In about 30 seconds, real quick with the bullet points. Get a handle on the financial stuff. You mentioned it's important to have all the legal I's dotted. Develop a plan. Hire professionals. Redefine. Get comfortable with your new life role. Explain that as far as getting comfortable with where you are now.
Because who you're going to be at the end of a transition is completely different than who you are. You can go from mom to single mom, from wife or employed person to stay-at-home mom. It's very important to figure out what does that mean in your life. Things change. You need to change too.
Embracing singlehood, how important is that?
Very important. You have to be able to understand this is your new lifestyle. You're not probably going to get together 6 weeks after the divorce. Move on and enjoy your life. Don't waste your life or dedicate your life to mourning something.
All right, we got to have you back. See, we're into this relationship thing now for different reasons, but we're going to have you back. Lori Giles, our therapist and life coach. When we come back to the Stan Simpson Show, we'll have a little walk talk. Our entertainment attorney, James Walker, talks about tonight's Emmys, Fantasia's Confession, and the future of Tiger and Elin Woods. Do not go away.